Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. As you can see, I'm actually on the road right now. I'm in Georgia doing some interviews with people, on the ground, finding out which way they're going to go. Georgia's probably going to be one of the most important swing states for the 2024 elections. We should have something out by the end of the week, so stay tuned on what I find while talking to people here. One of the biggest issues that are swaying voters, talking to people, it's mostly quality of life. A lot of people are talking about the economy, high cost of living, and many people are no longer seem to feel that the old American dream is really there for them. A lot of people are wondering if they can have a family, whether they can own a home. The old white picket fence and the kind of happy life that used to be presented to us when we were kids. I'm actually curious for all of you. Do you feel that you can have that American dream as it used to be presented to you? I'd be curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. But look, we're seeing a trend of people right now getting squeezed out of the housing market. The birth rate has been at historic lows. But despite the birth rate being very low, experts are now saying we need 3 to 7 million new homes to meet demand because population is growing up. So how is it that population is rising, births are down, and somehow this is making it the reason why we can't afford homes, right? That brings up the important point of, if we're facing population decline, why is there a housing shortage? Well, the simple answer is mass illegal immigration. And we also have the issue now of scammers using AI to steal people's houses. Americans are having their homes stolen, including the deeds, because scammers are using AI to generate them. I'll be talking more about these topics as we go forward, so stay tuned and let's jump into it, folks. Now look, high costs of living are affecting the quality of life for Americans. This is having a direct impact on the traditional view of the American dream. High costs of homes are making owning a home more difficult and making everyday goods a lot more expensive. Look, the International Monetary Fund is now saying that these high costs are not going away. Now, like the Washington Post also had an op-ed recently to raise some of the problems that young people are facing with this. Here's Washington Post. They said, owning a home has long been a core part of the American dream. Today, however, there simply are not enough affordable options, and the ideal is increasingly out of reach. They say this: there's a sensible way to address this shortfall, but it requires moving beyond the antiquated vision of a big house with a fenced yard in the suburbs. No more of that. They say the new American dream should be a townhouse, a 2 or 3 story home that shares walls with a neighbor. Townhouses are the Goldilocks option between single-family homes in the suburbs and high-rise condos in cities. They say the United States needs more homes, 3 million to 7 million, depending which experts you ask. In many parts of the world, the obvious solution would be to construct high-rises. Everybody lives in big apartments, right? But they say, however, financing and liability challenges for U.S. developers have meant almost no new condo construction since 2009. In other words, they need more houses, but red tape is stopping those houses from being built. They say instead, developers have found a sweet spot with townhouses, cheaper to build. And it notes, they usually face less not in my backyard resistance, and buyers love them, they say. They know that townhouses have all the trappings of a classic American home, but they cost less to buy, offer low maintenance lifestyles, and are more climate friendly. They say it's the American dream, but with a smaller yard. Now, I'd be curious. Look, this is just me guessing. I would assume people maybe would rather have like a normal house rather than a townhouse. Let me know what you think about that. But first off, look, the birth rates in America, they have hit historic lows this year. There are more deaths than births, right? We have negative population growth in this regard. So this is creating kind of a discrepancy in the data, right? So if we're facing population decline, why is there a housing shortage? Why would the United States be 3 million to 7 million new homes short of meeting the needs, right? Population goes down, you'd think more houses, not less. Well, look, a simple answer and why the reason for that is we've been seeing mass illegal immigration that would hit around actually those numbers because, you're talking about Look, congressional estimates put the number of illegal immigrants just over the last 4 years at around 10 million people. That's in addition to the around 11 million known illegal immigrants before that, which many consider on the very low end of estimates as well. But look, if you figure, well, 10 million illegal immigrants, some of those are families, might be husband or wife or kid, well, 3 million, 7 million, that about rounds out to what they're saying we need. Now look, the role of mass migration has been cited as a cause of the rising cost of homes. I know this is debatable, but I'm going to show you the data from the horse's mouth, frankly. This was brought up back in May by the president of the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis. This is their official website, the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank. They say this, quote, "We know that following the global financial crisis, the country built far fewer housing units than were needed to keep up with population growth and housing formation." Remember the 2008 downturn and so on, right? They say, thus, there appears to be a significant shortage of housing that will take a long time to close. They say, while the long-run effect of increased immigration on inflation is unclear, immigrants nonetheless need a place to live, and their arrival in the U.S. has likely also increased demand for housing. So the question is, should Americans need to lower their expectations on housing, right? Should we have to look to townhouses and not imagine the American dream like we used to because they want to let in, all these millions of illegal immigrants, and now there's 3 million to 7 million too few homes available? Should we expect to pay more for existing homes because of these people, right? Should we expect to put our futures and, diminish our views of what we can have because they want to have these policies? That is one of the big questions. Now look, financially for the banks, of course, the problem is if you create too many products, it drives down the prices because supply and demand are where profit happens, right? You want to have supply and demand kind of meet each other. If you have too much supply, prices drop. And so what do? You work hand in hand with regulators and so on in order to diminish supply. Red tape for construction. Because if you build too many new houses, well, people can afford them, prices go down, and then the banks, of course, buying up properties and keeping them because, fractional reserve banking, they can go by the actual value of their assets, right? If you reduce the value of the assets, let's say the bank buys, $400,000 homes and they want to keep the value at $400,000 or maybe make it more expensive. You build more homes, you make it so they cost less, the banks lose money. So what do to artificially raise the prices or maintain the prices if you have population decline? You import new customers. That's why they have mass illegal immigration feeding into this. Now look, the Washington Post noted this as well in a recent piece. They noted it's especially affecting housing prices in swing states. And it noted this has become one of the most important points with economic data. It also is something that could impact the way people vote, notably. This is Washington Post. They say, quote, "The Post analyzed a broad swath of economic data in swing states to determine why those voters tend to say they are pessimistic about the nation's economy. They say the analysis found that counties in swing states were more likely to be financially disadvantaged than other counties across America, with slower growth or even contraction in economic output and wages." Meaning, people are poorer there, and some people are getting less money than they used to, right? Economic output, they're producing less, wages, they're making less money. But they say this, housing costs emerge as the starkest economic challenge, especially in Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. In those three states, more than 80% of voters live in counties where housing costs surged faster than the national average between August 2019 and August 2024. What happened between August 2019 and August 2024? This is according to the Washington Post. They say, quote, "Many swing states, particularly along the Sun Belt, experienced an influx of new residents during the pandemic, driving up demand for housing. At the same time, COVID-related challenges made it difficult to keep up with new construction. That burst of demand combined with constrained supply led to a rapid run-up in prices. Again, how do you create demand for houses? You import new people. What do people need? Well, they have a few basic needs. They need homes, and they need food, and they need water. Eventually, they need jobs. And if you're restricting the supply, notably of homes, and the supply of jobs, what happens? Well, you have people competing for them. It means that businesses don't have, shortfalls in terms of hiring. It means that homes don't have a problem getting sold at high prices. Now, economically, you can say, hey, great, look at these great economic numbers we have. The stocks are going up. But what does that mean for the individual, the average person? It means quality of life and the actual experience goes down. Now, of course, with the election just around the corner, we'll see whether this actually affects people, casting their votes. Again, I can tell you I'm in Georgia right now, and this has been one of the biggest issues people are citing. They're saying it's harder to get by. Again, cost of living is going up, wages are not. And so being out here, I see it, I'm talking to people about it. A lot of people don't necessarily connect this politically to what's actually happening. But without a doubt, a lot of people believe they're in difficult situations right now. But also, in addition to this, you also have things like crime. You have scammers now using artificial intelligence to steal American homes. We'll be talking more about this when we come back from a quick break.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges with a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold. You can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Welcome back. Scammers are using artificial intelligence to steal American homes. That's right. AI is being used to steal houses. Now, imagine this. You do manage to buy a home. You've achieved the American dream. You finally did it. You did the impossible for some people. You have that old white picket fence. You have the golden retriever in the yard, right? But then what happens, right? Scammers come along and right under you, they steal it. This is becoming a real problem for people. Business Insider said this. He said, some real estate scammers operate by transferring a home's deed away from its rightful owners. They say the owner of a $137.5 million LA mansion says they're a victim of deed fraud and they can't sell the home now. They say the increasing ubiquity of AI tools makes faking deeds and ownership easier than ever. And what happens, of course, if you have crime that works, crime without punishment, well, people keep doing it. Now, like it says on top of this, right? It's that residents in many states are dealing with the problem of squatters' rights. It's not even just people stealing homes with deeds. It's people, again, moving into your house and just saying it's theirs now. People are renting out homes or leaving homes to go on vacation. Or maybe, you have a room and you rent it out on Airbnb. A squatter stays there for 28 days or a month. And what happens? Because of the laws in many states, they can say, hey, I'm officially a resident here. I've been here about a month. This is my place now. You cannot kick me out. People are renting out homes. They're going to take care of their family members. They're coming back and they're finding that people have moved in and they have now laid claim to their homes. In fact, you might remember some of the viral videos of this. You even had illegal immigrants saying how easy it is to steal the homes of Americans. You had illegal immigrants bragging about this on TikTok. You might remember some of the viral videos on this, including some individuals from Venezuela talking about, hey, all you have to do is move in, stay there for 28 days, stay there for a month, and it's yours. they cannot kick you out, or it's a very long process if you try to. And again, this is a real problem people are having. It's not just, again, the bank squeezing you and mass illegal immigration squeezing you. It's the light on crime policies and the loopholes within the system, allowing Americans to be robbed like this. Now, that said, some other stuff is going on, folks. In other news, the 2025 tax brackets are out. Now, it does seem Americans are making out, let's say this, low or middle income Americans are technically paying less taxes. Let me show you this. CBS News says the IRS on Tuesday announced its new inflation-adjusted tax brackets for 2025, with the annual income thresholds rising by about 2.8% from 2024, and it's the smallest jump in several years. Not for a while, but several years. They say the idea is to protect taxpayers from bracket creep, when workers are pushed into higher tax bands due to the impact of cost of living adjustment aimed to offset inflation. They say without a change in their standard of living. They say, quote, bracket creep occurs when inflation, rather than real increases in income, pushes people into higher income brackets or reduces the value they receive from credit and deductions. Meaning, of course, if you make more money in this country, you got to pay more in taxes. And there, again, you sometimes get pushed up into that, even though you don't really feel the benefits of making more money, and then they take the extra money you make from you. But they say this, with the U.S. inflation cooling to its lowest levels in 3 years, again, according to CBS, right? They say the IRS's annual adjustments are likewise becoming smaller. For instance, they say the new threshold for the 10% tax bracket for married couples filing jointly will increase to $23,850 in 2025, a 2.8% increase from the 2024 threshold of $23,000. Not much difference, frankly. But look, alongside this announcement, something else is happening. Donald Trump is also revealing his tax plan. Now, look, they're counting on what the new tax plan does is it makes the middle class a little more of a middle class. You don't get necessarily pushed into higher brackets too quickly. Trump is coming out with a very different plan. His plan is something that could result in most Americans paying zero income tax. No tax at all, at least on the federal level. CNBC said this, former President Donald Trump's tax reform ideas could offer total or partial income tax exemptions to roughly 93.2 million Americans, a meaningful chunk of the U.S. electorate, according to CNBC's analysis of several estimates. They say as part of his economic pitch to voters, Trump has floated a sweeping tax overhaul, including a slate of income tax breaks. Now it notes, these exemptions are part of Trump's larger vision to transition away from the income tax system and replace it with the revenue he says would be generated by his hardline tariffs proposals. Tariffs on foreign imports, right? They say that Trump has pledged to impose a 20% universal tariff on all imports from all countries with a specific 60% rate for Chinese imports. Now, look, the Trump plan would actually fall more in line with how the federal government used to fund its operations up until about 1890 and into the early 1900s. Now remember, folks, prior to the Civil War, there was no federal income tax in the United States. There was no such thing. They implemented it very briefly during the Civil War. It went away. They then brought about several different programs, or two different ones, really between 1890 and the early 1900s, creating a small tariff and other tariffs on foreign goods. The problem with that is it raises the price of foreign goods. So if you're buying products from other countries, well, you might pay more money. But if you buy local American, made in America, good old stuff, well, you don't have to pay those tariffs, meaning foreign goods have to compete with American-made products. Now, that all changed around 1913, and folks, say it with me, what happened in 1913? Well, a couple things. They created the 16th Amendment, I believe it is, which created, of course, federal income tax in our Constitution, which did not previously exist, except briefly during the Civil War. And that happened right along with the creation of the Federal Reserve, as you all know. In fact, I want to go more into this, but I'll probably do that tomorrow because I want to deep dive into the tax system, how that whole thing works, the history of it, and also what actually will, what it'll mean if we have these tariffs. It's a bigger topic, but I need probably a full episode to talk about it, so join me tomorrow for that. But folks, further on this, some other stuff is going on. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, they're talking about something else, right? It seems there's a lot of financial pressure on Americans, whether it's houses, whether it's crime, whether it's taxes, all these things, interest rates, all of them eating away at your money. And not to mention, of course, credit card debt and what happens when you default on debt and they seize all your assets, whether it's the squatters or the deed stealers or the good old banks, right? Americans risk losing their homes. Now look, the IMF is now saying, in addition to all this, that high prices are not going to go away. The International Monetary Fund's managing director, Kristalina Georgieva, noted this much during a speech at the Bretton Woods conference last week. Watch this.
The pain we all feel because prices have gone up is here to stay. And higher level of prices makes many people around the world quite angry. 2, we are faced with this unforgiving combination of slow growth and high debt. Yes, we inflated part of the debt when inflation was high, but if you looked at our analysis on the debt situation, getting to 100% debt to GDP, not a pretty picture. And bringing debt levels down is going to be very, very difficult.
Now, look, as I've been mentioning, all of this shows a different view on the economy. Now, you see two different narratives on the economy. On one side, you're being told the economy is doing great, and you see the news outlets saying, why are Americans not talking about the great state of the economy? It is true on one end. If you look at the stock market, if you look at the US dollar, if you look at international inflation, technically, on paper, the economy is doing very well. But the problem is the experience of the American people does not show this. For the American people, they're facing rising credit card debt. For the American people, they're facing rising cost of goods, even according to the IMF, which are not going away. For the American people, they're competing for houses. For the American people, life is becoming very difficult. Now, on the books, it's a different picture. The big businesses are making out well, but the average person is not, according to all this, right? Now, look, if products, food, homes, all this costs more, if you risk being robbed and there's nothing you can do about it because people are exploiting loopholes within the legal system, then is the average American experiencing a positive environment, or are they not? Right? That is a real question to ask, and I believe this will become one of the biggest things that's going to impact the way people are going to vote coming up very soon. Now look, in other news, a study showing that puberty blockers do not lead to mental illness improvement for kids was left unpublished because the topic became politically sensitive. Now, I'll be talking about this only on EpochTV.com. So if you're watching, again, joining me on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble X, now is the time to click that link in the description or in the live chat and come and join us for the rest of this episode and the live Q&A on EpochTV.com. And folks, that said, we're going to jump right now, so make sure you're clicking on that link, and I will see you on EpochTV.com for the rest of this episode.